What's up everybody, Lucas here. In this video I am going to share with you the routine that I use to go from this to achieving the full splits in only 7 days. I am going to share with you my simple routine plus some additional tips that you can start applying to your flexibility goals today. So get ready, pay attention, and learn. But you gotta focus. Now this routine is split up into 2 parts, a morning session and an afternoon session. For the morning session, I did this every single day, day 1 through day 7. Now the afternoon routine or after workout routine was only done 4 out of the 7 days. Day 1, day 3, day 5, and day 6. So the only 2 days the after workout routine was back to back was 5 and 6. So let's get started diving into the details of the morning routine. So this routine was approached with the same manner of waking up and stretching out. You know how you wake up out of bed and you're just like, oh yeah, stretch out? That's how this routine was approached. Now the only thing we did before getting started stretching was 5 deep breaths with a 4 count in and a 4 count out. I felt like this was extremely beneficial to the overall quality of the stretching routine because it allowed my body to get into a relaxed state so that I was able to further relax into these stretches, benefiting from them. Now check this out. After the 5 deep breaths, the first muscle that I would easily stretch wasn't my hamstrings, wasn't my groin, wasn't the full split stretch type deal. It was a quad stretch. So the very first thing in the morning routine that I worked on after the breaths was stretching opposing muscles to the muscles that we would eventually stretch for the splits. And this is for a good reason. Not only to prevent injury and imbalances, but it has been shown that if you work on stretching opposing muscle groups to the goal muscle groups you want to stretch, it will help your flexibility develop even further. Now after stretching the quads for only 30 seconds, I moved on to the straddle stretch. Now a little modification tip that I did for this stretch was notice my toes. I didn't allow my toes to point inwards towards the center of the stretch. I actually pulled my toes outwards. This helped isolate more of my hamstrings during this stretch. Now I held this for a solid 1 minute. Not to any sharp pains or any super discomfort, but just a nice stretch feeling. After this, picking a side, I went to a pigeon stretch, holding this for 30 seconds. Then from this pigeon stretch, I rotated my knee and foot as shown, isolating my adductor muscle or my groin muscle in the middle on the long side, holding this for 30 seconds. Then from here, I went to a pigeon stretch on the other side and then stretching the adductor muscle on the other side, 30 seconds each. After this, we did a super effective one for helping develop that groin flexibility when it comes to achieving the full splits, the wall stretch. Now, just allowing gravity to slowly pull my legs apart down on the wall, I held this position for a minute. I didn't push to anything uncomfortable. I just let gravity do its work for 1 whole minute. After a minute, I bend at the knees, bring my legs in to a wall butterfly. Optional, I lightly pressed up on my thighs to get a deeper stretch on the wall. Now that part of the morning routine was the exact same days 1 through day 7. This next part of the morning routine is where it changes up a little bit. Now days 1 through days 4, the next stretch I would engage in is the lizard stretch. 30 seconds on each side. It targets similar muscle groups to the pigeon stretch from a slightly different angle, and as you will see on days 5, 6, and 7, will be developed into something different. Now on days 5, 6, and 7, instead of doing the lizard stretch after that first chunk of the morning routine, what I did is attempted full side splits on each side, going as deep as possible without getting any pains, just that nice uncomfortable stretch feeling, holding each attempt for 30 seconds. By day 7, I was able to get basically the full side splits. After this chunk of the morning routine, I just did one more long straddle hold. This time, I just disregarded the toes. I allowed them to sink in if they wanted to. And I just held this straddle for a whole minute. Now only on days 5, 6, and 7, after this final straddle stretch hold, what I then attempted were full straight down the middle split attempts. And I just attempted these to where I felt comfortable without any uncomfortable pain or any uncomfortable stretch feelings. And yes, by day 7, I was able to achieve the full splits right down the middle and from each side. Now, as mentioned earlier, that is not the entire routine. There is an after workout or afternoon routine that I did on days 1, day 3, day 5, and day 6. I'm gonna share that with you right now. Real quick before we move on, if you guys are looking for a follow along version of that morning stretching routine, a video where you can follow along with me doing that whole stretching routine, check out my fitness channel, Only Kinds Fitness. Also, if you're looking to get into great shape, you can check out my bodyweight training programs on onlykindsfitness.com. Get stronger, faster, more flexible, all around athleticism. We have the 1-month plan, also Bodyweight Beast 2.0. Check those out. Thank you all so much. Let's get back to the video. Now this portion of the routine was implemented after I was warmed up. So after I worked out on most of these days, either cardio, upper body, lower body, full body, body weight, whatever it may be, any form of training just to where my body was warmed up. That's when I did this portion of the routine. Regardless of the workout, I wanted to be sure my regions for stretching the splits were warmed up. Something that just helped me warm up that region, that lower pelvic region very quickly, is going into a deep squat position and moving around in there for about a solid minute. Now moving on to the actual stretching. And we're starting with a special P.N.F stretching routine. What is P.N.F stretching? A little secret that is very effective, but needs to be done cautiously. So the only stretch I applied this P.N.F technique to is the straddle stretch, the classic straddle. So after holding this stretch for about 10 seconds, what I did is very lightly, very lightly flex the muscles being stretched. So my hamstrings, groin muscles, etc. Lightly, very lightly, and hold that flex in that static stretch position for about 7 seconds. Now after those 7 seconds, I relax while still in that static stretch position. However, during the relaxation, what you should notice, and what I noticed, is you can push the stretch to a more further static position so I could get a little bit deeper. Now I did this for only 3 rounds, so it was under a minute. So once again, if you are going to do this routine and you're going to do this technique, light flexing, and do not go to any sharp pain. You just want to be in that comfortable discomfort. Does that make sense? After this short but sweet little 60-second session, I then move on to stretching my glutes. So I do a simple runner's glute stretch each side for 30 seconds. Now after stretching the glutes, I stretch out my quads again, another opposing muscle. So you kind of get the idea here. You're not just always focusing on stretching those muscles specifically for the splits. You're trying to be a little bit more balanced, opposing muscles, preventing injury, and also aiding you in getting your splits easier. Now after doing a light quad stretch, I actually got the foam roller out and I rolled my IT band on each side, rolling my IT band for about 30 seconds to a minute on each side. Then from here, this was the freestyle section. Anything I felt like needed stretching, even in the upper body, but specifically in the lower body, I just did any random stretches, lower back, core. I just kind of freestyled for about 2 minutes total, stretching out what I felt was tight. Then when I was done with this, I went back into the straddle position, doing a long hold for 1 minute, just a nice relaxed straddle, naturally not working on pulling my feet up, just kind of falling into it however I felt I was getting the best stretch. So then from here I did a nice relaxation from 1 to 5 minutes where I just laid on my back on the floor and just tried to allow relaxation to flow throughout my entire body. I think this was very important because it kind of fixed my mind-body connection rather than just getting tight again after a workout, after stretching like, oh yeah, I feel empowered, to loosening up and relaxing and allowing recovery and repair to take place and allowing me to have my stretching gains more permanent. By the end of the 7 days, by the end of the morning routine on the 7th day, I had the flexibility to achieve the full splits. Now on the 7th day, I just want to be clear, it wasn't like I could just jump into the full splits right away. I had to do the full morning routine before I could stretch into it fully. So it wasn't like I had the full flexibility of the splits immediately on the 7th day. So what I'm trying to illustrate is, think of it like this: flexibility on the y-axis, time on the x-axis right here. As I am going through the stretching routines on day 1, my flexibility is increasing, but then when I am done with my stretching routine, it comes down a little bit. Now on day 2, we start a little bit down from where our peak was on day 1. We're not as flexible when we get started. However, after going through the routines, we are more flexible than where we were on the peak of day 1, but then that comes down a little bit when we stop, after we relax throughout the night. So what I'm trying to say is, by day 7, in the beginning of day 7, before I even did any stretching, right when I wake up, I didn't have the ability to do the full splits right away, but by the end of the morning routine, I was able to achieve the full splits. Finally, if you plan to copy this routine, I just want to say, go at your own pace. Do not push to any sharp pain. It may take you longer than 7 days, especially if you're starting from a position where you're not as flexible as I am, or maybe haven't even attempted the full splits before. I might have a benefit from attempting it 2 years ago. I'm gonna be teaching you all more things. I'm going to be learning myself more things, and I'm gonna share that with you. So don't forget to subscribe and turn those notifications on. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for your positive support and feedback. Peace. You all have a good one. I will see you all in the next video.